for by the Real Estate Radio Network. You're listening to Real Estate Radio Fresno on News Talk 580 KMJ. Now, live in studio, your host, local real estate expert, Craig Barton.
Good morning, Central Valley. I am your host, Craig Barton, and welcome to the Real Estate Radio Network, the most important hour of radio each and every week here on News Talk 580 KMJ. Real Estate Radio is a show dedicated to bringing some rational thought to the crazy world that we live in and helping you to rebuild the Central Valley's housing and credit markets. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted advice. And that's exactly what you will hear here every Saturday morning at 4 a.m. right here on News Talk 580 KMJ. Thanks for joining us. You know, the beauty of the Real Estate Radio Network, Michelle, is that Real Estate Radio gives us the opportunity to reach so many people efficiently for one full hour each and every week. Our goal is to get you the timely and accurate truth about our local real estate market so we can help you, or help. I screwed that one up.
Starbucks wasn't open this morning.
So, I'm a little underpercolated.
I'm waiting for one down the street or somewhere to open.
Yeah,
early.
Let me try that again because it's really important.
Okay.
Our goal is to get you the timely and accurate truth about our local real estate market so we can help bring you back home.
Did
you get that? It was
bring
kind of
you
a play
back
on
home.
words.
That was a play on words.
Yeah.
That's Facebookable.
That's Facebookable.
I like it.
As always, it is so great to have our special guest host, Michelle Pettis-Cavalli, in the studio with us today. Michelle is a licensed realtor and trusted local professional. Michelle, thanks as always for getting up so early.
Thanks for having me. I feel really special.
I love your hairdo this morning.
Thanks. I got that special for our audience.
No baseball cap this morning.
I showered today, too.
You showered today, too, to boot. Well, on today's show, we're going to take a closer look at FHA financing. What exactly is FHA financing? What is all the hullabaloo? How does it work? What are the basic requirements, and how can it help get you into your dream home? We have mortgage advisor Tim O'Hare from Valleywide Homes to help answer those and many more questions. Tim, thanks so much for getting up with us, buddy.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Hey, can I just say that I noticed FHA isn't as fun as CHDAP to say.
Well, that's true.
It lacks some of the pizzazz. Is that what you're trying to say?
It just doesn't sound the same.
Just doesn't trickle up. Well, make sure you stay with us. If you have any questions regarding real estate or real estate-related financing questions, or questions regarding the information that we share with you here on the show, please call us anytime at 800-979-3958. You can also check out our resources online at reofresnohomes.com. Or, Michelle, you can use
Is it time?
It's time. Press 4 keyword
KMJ. Call Craig.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to
trying
talk.
to take
I'm
my
not trying to steal
spot?
your thunder. I promise you. To get connected to the show, because we would love to hear from you.
Hear from them.
Yeah.
We're getting some great calls.
We are getting some great calls, great questions, great feedback.
You could also call if you are a local coffee delivery boy, because it is
just
really
happens
early.
to be
or girl.
In the neighborhood.
We take girls too.
close to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Palm and Shaw Avenue,
Fresno,
Okay.
California. Starbucks was not open.
There you go.
Okay.
Well, you heard me say press 4 keyword KMJ, call Craig. Well, we want to help show you that you'll only need one button for the rest of your life.
Oh, I do
That's
love
a
that.
big order.
Okay, but I left my phone in the car. I'm feeling a little withdrawals.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't have my press 4 vocals to help
sorry.
us. I know. Craig, I'm feeling a little lonely without my press 4.
I'm a little down because of that. I don't know
know.
how I'm going to recover. Well, I tell you what.
Tim's got a calculator ready to
Yeah.
do the same
Put on your
thing.
calculator, you can press 4.
You can press 4.
I
But
can press
It's not gonna be the same reaction.
It doesn't say, you have called.
Oh,
KMJ
my gosh.
called.
Well, press 4 is for all those times that you're away from your computer, and now you can get exactly what you want. Not everything, like we said last week, Michelle.
Pizza.
With just one, you can get pizza.
Does
With
it say KMJ call coffee?
Well, it depends upon what your keywords are.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
We'll find that out.
KMJ order pizza, and it
All
will
right.
help you
That
order
might
pizza.
work.
And now we can help show you that you can get what you want with just one simple push of a button on your mobile phone. Now, how do you get Press 4 if you have an iPhone or Android phone? Just go to your app store to get Press 4. That's PRESS, the number 4. And if you don't own an iPhone or an Android, Press 4 will still work for you.
Yeah, or press Quattro.
Yeah. Yes, Quattro. We want to be diverse. Just go to the Press 4 website at press4.com and follow the easy setup instructions. Press 4 will work on any phone, iPhone, Android, BlackBerry, Windows Phone, and
Tim, your dumb phones too.
Yeah.
Tim's the only friend I have left on the planet.
Careful what you say here.
I'm upgrading.
You are?
I am.
Stepping into the
With a not smart
new
phone.
millennium. Sometimes it's just too easy to get a hold of you, Tim, if you have a smartphone.
Yeah.
It tracks you everywhere you go.
The only way you can really, truly leave your work at the office. Huh, I hear you. Well, today you're going to hear us use Press 4 every week to help keep you in the know, as well as to pass on all sorts of information that we feel is really valuable to you. During our show, you're going to hear us say things like, to call into the show, just use... Did my voice change there?
A little bit.
It was
Kinda
my,
like,
my
yeah.
announcer voice.
Yeah.
Just use the Press 4 keyword, KMJ.
Call Craig. Did I look like Vanna right there?
You did.
Okay,
you did.
see, we're on
it's
the
a
same
team like no
wavelength
other.
then.
We don't get paid what they get paid. And in this example, your phone will call our show. One button really can do it all. Or we will use Press 4 keyword KMJ HUD Homes, like we did a couple weeks ago for one of our shows. And we'll send you more information about HUD Homes right to your phone.
Get a little text message. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, this was the point of
Really
the show.
liking
We
it.
were hoping that you were going to use your phone, but
I'm sorry.
we don't
Left it
have
in
all
the
those
car.
props today.
Yeah.
We also want to bring a new feature. This is a new feature, Michelle,
a new feature?
to our show. Today we're going to take a look at today's hot property.
I love this property.
Yeah. The address of this property is 1966 Cougar Lane in Clovis, California. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,952 square feet, open floor plan. It is a PUD.
What is a PUD, Craig?
What is it, Tim?
Planned unit development.
Very good, very good. It does share a common wall, so it looks like a condominium development.
But you own the land.
But you own the land.
Well, you know what the best part is? It's on Cougar Lane in Clovis. Where do you think they got that name, Craig? I don't know.
The school across the street.
The school across the street, yeah.
Minor details. Cougar Lane. Rock on Clovis High Cougars.
Yeah, there you go. This is a HUD home. It is located, as you had mentioned, right across the street from Clovis High School. Priced at $131,400. The appraised value of this particular property, this particular property has been reduced roughly about 20%. Great little development.
Well, and
Great seat for your fireworks. I tell you what.
Really?
4th of July.
Yeah.
All you got to do is sit out right outside your back
Right
door,
outside Cougar
and you
Lane.
got right on Cougar Lane. You got a great view to the fireworks at Clovis High School.
well, and can we just say it's a HUD home? So
It
your
is a
closing
HUD
costs
home.
are paid.
Well, you can ask
You
for
can
closing
ask
costs
for
up to
them to pay your
3%,
closing costs.
which
There's
is
some great features.
$3,940 approximately.
And just hit press 4 and you can get that HUD property.
You better believe
There
it. If
you
you'd like
go.
more
Yeah.
information about today's hot property, please give us a call at 800-979-3958 or use Press 4 keyword.
KMJ, call Craig.
This is a new
Oh, it's
segment.
HUD?
It's
Oh.
KMJ hot property.
Oh, I wasn't reading.
And then we're going to send.
You guys are.
We're
Okay, you
mixing
have to
things
slow
up.
down for me. KMJ, hot property.
There you go. And we'll send you information about this particular hot property
Nice, I like
right
that.
to your smartphone. Each week we're gonna feature at least one hot property.
You know what I like though? HUD and hot. They all sound really good. Chadap, HUD, hot.
You have a fixation on words.
FH is the
Wow.
acronyms I
Yeah,
love.
the TLAs.
just-
FHA
the
just-
acronyms.
That's just how she rolls, huh?
Yeah.
Well, now let's take a look at some of the top stories in the news. Well, in Washington, D.C., U.S. Senator Robert Menendez, Democrat from New Jersey, chairman of the Senate Subcommittee on Housing, Transportation, and Community Development, introduced what many people are calling a quite innovative bill to help keep families in their homes despite owing more than their home is worth. Well, Senator Menendez says that the $25 billion settlement that was recently struck between the federal government and state officials and the nation's five largest mortgage servicers helps homeowners, but it's a long way from healing the grievous wounds left by the housing crisis. Unfortunately, too many Americans are underwater on their mortgages and are all too familiar with the burden that this brings. When you owe more than your house is worth, relief can be hard to come by. More and more people are choosing to walk away since they feel that that's their only viable option, which really exacerbates the problem and makes it worse. Well, Senator Menendez,
Yeah, it's like Mendez or Menendez.
Yeah,
Like it's
exactly.
got that extra syllable.
and I hate to say
You'll
this,
get
every
there.
time I see Menendez, I think of the Menendez brothers.
Wowzers.
That was a blast.
Blast
Wow.
from the past.
It was. Wow. Yeah. No more. Say no more. He says, my bill aims to break this cycle and give homeowners the relief that they are looking for by working with the banks to find an acceptable solution to solutions for everyone, I should say. The Preserving American Homeownership Act is specifically aimed at homeowners who own more than their house is worth, or they're considered underwater, which is currently estimated to be more than 10 million properties nationally. Wow. And approximately 22% of all homeowners. That's a big number. That's a really big number. And that's a big number, comparatively speaking, to the numbers that you look at nationally, annually, in terms of the number of foreclosures that we've seen over, say, the last 5 years. The number of foreclosures that we've seen nationally over the last 5 years is roughly only about half of this number.
Are you kidding?
Wow.
It's scary.
Wow.
It's really, really scary to know that there's that many people that are underwater. And being underwater, let's face it, guys, it's a banana peel. Well, you're a banana peel away from the decision to potentially vacate that property.
Again.
And it's not because you can't make the payment.
No, but we've
and
talked
people
about...
they're still making payments on those, too.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly.
And we've talked about business decisions for your family. People are making those calls.
Well, on the average, these homeowners owe more, or anywhere between $40,000 and $65,000 more than what their home is currently worth. Some of this, the uniqueness of this particular situation, there is a debt for equity arrangement that offers a solution for these qualified underwater homeowners to work together with their lenders to achieve a mutually beneficial outcome, avoiding the lengthy and costly process of foreclosure. And it can be lengthy. I say it can be lengthy. In some instances, it never happens at all. Folks move out of the property. I had a borrower that contacted me about a year ago, and she says, hey, Craig, my husband and I, we want to start looking, and this and that and the other thing. Well, tell me about the situation as far as your previous home. Well, we moved out in February of I think it was 2010. And I said, well, what was the address of the property? Let me look it up. Looked it up. They still hadn't taken the property back. It was still in their name.
In their process.
They still hadn't foreclosed.
Wow.
And there was no default on the property.
Wow.
Which that's the first step.
Yeah, but these people can't reestablish
They
long
can't.
as all that is in their name.
The clock does not even begin to start ticking until the property reverts back to
the bank.
To the bank, exactly.
Wow. And actually, $40,000 to $65,000 more than their home is worth. You know what?
You think that's on the low end?
I was going to say that.
But that's
I
on,
don't
that's
mean to
on,
be critical,
that's
but
on
that's
average,
an average. I get it.
That's
but
on average.
I don't know. That does seem low, and maybe that's low for California.
My guess would be if you look at different areas of California, California being a big hotbed, Vegas being a big, Nevada being a big hotbed, Ohio, Florida being some of the major states where you've seen some of the biggest swings as far as home values are concerned. It depends upon the geographic area because when you say average, someone that owes $550 on a 400 value in San Francisco or in Woodland Hills, or you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It is all relative. Up here, if somebody is still in their home and they owe $265 on a 200 value, or
that seems more reasonable. So I'm thinking 65 to me seems like
still seems a little low.
That seems like a little low. Okay.
But again, national averages. So
thanks for keeping me on track there, Timmy.
You got it.
Well, additional details. Let's kind of break this out as far as this particular proposal is concerned. And might I add, this particular proposed bill has actually gone to committee, which means it has either fallen into the huge black hole.
Nice.
And
talk about drowning underwater.
And there'll be no recommendation as far as coming out of this committee. The scary thing is that it goes to committee, and you then have the opportunity to figure out, as far as your constituents are concerned, or those members of those committees, is how does this affect whom in what way? And that's the scary part, because we've seen the trail of breadcrumbs back to the wrong people too many times.
Right. Now, this is a debt for equity. Tell me more about what they're proposing specifically.
Specifically, the principal balance of the loan would be reduced to 95% of the reassessed value, and that reassessed value.
The reassessed value.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, that's not the reassessed value that like a tax assessor would reassess.
It would be done by an appraiser.
Exactly, a third-party appraiser that would come in and do that particular valuation. And of the reassessed value, and over a 3-year period of time, provided the homeowner is able to continue to make the reduced payments, the principal balance would be reduced in 1/3 increments over each of those years. You know, some.
Okay, wait. Yeah, slow me down. I'm confused.
No. There's a number of questions that come out of there. So originally, when I first read this, I'm thinking reduce it to 95% of the current assessed value. But I didn't hear the part about 1/3 over each year over 3 years. So what do they make their payment on? Do they make it on the 95% of the current assessed value, and then we reduce it over 3 years? My thinking is that the intent is it is based upon the 95% now, but the 3 year 1/3 principal reduction is
from the previous.
From the beginning. When you start this, 12 months it gets reduced by 1/3. Another 12 months, it gets reduced by 1/3. Another 12 months, it gets reduced by 1/3. Well, it's like a prize. It's like going
at the end of the thing.
It's like going to the fair and you're trying to win that big stuffed animal.
Right. You want to. It's buying your time.
I really do. I think it's smart there because it does force people. There's like a light at the end of the tunnel. I've got to stay in this. Too. I've got to stay in this.
Right.
So psychologically, it forces you to really grind it out for that 36 months. And by then, it's hopefully.
Well, yeah, because if you think about it, a lot of people go into foreclosure because of divorce, there's a lot of other issues that come into the picture. So even in those situations, 36 months, you look at the overall. You can potentially sell your property or
and great
do
point,
something else.
because what the hope is that this allowing it to fall back into quote unquote this is real world values based upon today. I think most folks could say they could live with owing 95% of what their home is worth.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
It forces you to grind it out for 36 months
where the market
and get accustomed to it, get accustomed to that payment. And if it's a situation where you do unfortunately lose the property based upon, like you were saying, someone gets divorced, lose their job, a death in the family, that would then fall under what we would consider to be more normal delinquency rates.
Right.
And what they are saying here is that these delinquency rates would be more consistent with a national average of approximately 2.6%, which is what would be considered normal. It's still a big number, but what would be considered normal in reality.
But it would give the market a breath. It'd like take it, everybody takes a breath, and we relook at it all. I will say though, with it not doing a natural recoup, it goes flatline again.
Right.
I mean, really, truly, there's a lot of markets that go flatline again. People aren't moving. People aren't changing.
So when you say flatline, what does flatline mean to you?
It means the market stops moving. So if the market stops moving, it doesn't just affect agents and appraisers and those folks. Yeah, you might have somebody involved in that transaction, for instance, but you've got contractors and construction folks and cement layers and people out there who stop working because now we've flatlined the market.
But hold on here. Part of I'm totally with you.
Right.
I'm totally with you. But remember, simple economics is this: supply and demand.
Sure.
So if you keep more folks in their homes, there's less properties that are going to foreclosure. Your inventory tightens up to the point we're selling here in Fresno County roughly about 400 to 500 homes a month on average annually right at the moment. We've got about 2,500 listings out there that are active in Fresno County right at the moment. You tighten that up and you you reduce that supply. What does that do as far as prices are concerned?
Prices are going to go up based on demand.
Prices are going to go up based upon
and
demand.
you're also going to have less investors involved and more people that are actually
you will have
naturally. It is going to. You're exactly right. It is going to purge those investors because bottom line is you can't buy a fourplex for $175, pay cash, and you're returning your investments north of 10%. It just doesn't happen at that point. Now, in exchange, what happens is the bank would receive a fixed share at most 50% of the increase in the home's value when the home is sold or later subsequently refinanced. Now, that share depends on how much the bank initially reduced the principal. It's already sounding complicated. I can't take my shoes off. But, for example, even in this example, I'm still confused. For example, if the bank reduced the principal balance by 20%, they would receive a 20% share of any later increase in the home. Now, the natural disconnect is if they forgave $50,000. In other words, the bigger the number gets, the more it sucks the motivation out of the room, right? Home values would be determined by an independent third party, which we talked about earlier. 2 pilot programs would be established by FHFA, which is the Federal Housing and Finance Administration, and the Federal Housing Administration for a length of 2 years. for homeowners acceptance. What that really means, not totally sure. Homeowners are eligible no matter how far they are underwater. Homeowners who are in default or in foreclosure are still eligible, which is great because what did we talk about last week?
Right.
Those folks we were talking about HARP last week, HARP 2.0, and it removes the cap as far as the loan-to-value cap as far as how much you owe, which we still, since last week, have heard nothing else.
Nothing new on HARP
Nothing's
2.
come to the market, right, Tim?
Yeah, I'm really concerned that none of the political people involved with that decision no one's called us.
No, I've had a lot of
to
people
explain
call
it.
asking about the program.
Oh,
and
the
when's
consumer.
Consumer wants to know a lot about it,
they
but
do.
unfortunately, it's still in the works.
Yeah.
So
It's in the black hole.
it is in the black hole.
Well, I think this is positive in that it does the net that it casts as far as folks that are in default and in foreclosure are still eligible, but they also still must make timely payments on the modified mortgage going forward, or they will not receive any principal reduction. So I like that. You've got to make the payments in order to receive the principal reduction.
What's that term you guys said? Skin in the game?
Yeah,
Keep
it
your
is.
Skin in the game?
Well, you've got to perform. Otherwise, guess what? It doesn't work. It defaults, and the property reverts back to the servicer.
Okay.
Primary residences are eligible, but secondary residences and investment properties are not.
I disagree with that. I disagree with the second homes, potentially. As far as investors, I really think we need our investors. I mean, you got to be careful there.
I'd really like to hear and I say this respectfully, I'd really like to hear the logic behind why those would not be, and it may be something that's really super simple, but I'd really like to hear why you would not include investment properties or second homes.
Perception.
Or perhaps maybe
think
they're the 1% of America that everyone's against.
Because if you own a second home or you are an investor and make a profit, you must be at the top of the food chain, I'm thinking is why it was written in. I mean, really, when you think about it, because do
you want me to say that this was written by a Democrat? So, I mean, that's
moving right along.
They're trying to take your money, Michelle. That's exactly it.
Right.
One of the
I know
things
what you're saying.
to throw in, if capital improvements are made to the home, obviously if the homeowner puts any money or makes any capital improvements to the property, the homeowners will receive a credit for the appreciation, and the banks will not receive a share in that portion of the appreciation. If they put a pool, if they add square footage to the footprint of the property.
Interesting.
Go ahead.
Smart. They're just worried those smart people who have a second home and investment properties might figure out this works really well for them or something, I'm sure. They assume somebody will figure out a way to make a racket out of it.
Well, one of the questions that comes up, of the 10 million homes or 10 million properties that are currently
Underwater?
that are currently underwater, how many of them are owner-occupied? How many of them are investment properties or second homes? And how can you, again, I'd love an explanation. Listeners, if any of you have an explanation, we'd love to hear from you. Press 4 keyword KMJ comment line. I don't understand why the net cannot, in this particular instance, be cast that big. I'd love to hear a good reasoning behind it.
I'd love to hear the numbers. I mean, I'd love to hear what the ratios are for owner-occupied versus the others. That would be a...
What percentage of that 10 million?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like we said earlier, this particular bill has been sent to committee. Committee could be the death of it.
Who wrote the bill again?
Menendez
out of New Jersey.
Menendez brothers.
And I hate to say also, it does make me wonder, or the larceny in me always it makes me ask the question, just like we heard in President Obama's address to the State of the Nation address, State of the Union address, excuse me, his proposal that would hit all of those privately owned mortgages that are not owned by Fannie and Freddie that are covered under HARP 2.0. Is that something that is really going to stick, can stick? Is it the only thing that he would potentially have control over, because we're able to make that decision and not the secondary market? You're able to, in other words, you're able to legislate that it's something that's going to happen. Secondary market doesn't have to do anything if they don't want to.
Right.
Just like with HARP. They don't have to sign on. They don't have to do anything.
Right.
Just because we've said that this is
needed.
Interesting, thought-provoking proposal. Is it too late? Hard to say. I think there's some good things about this particular idea. I hope more than anything that this particular proposal is not, again, it's larceny in me, an election year stunt in terms of this is something that you say because it's great for your constituents and it's great for, regardless of what side of the aisle it comes from, that it's just something that you say because it's feel good. Like Michelle, you said last week. Can we just put the
rainbow
spray paint away? Well, I tell you what. After the break, we're going to talk about how some banks are beginning to pay homeowners as much as $35,000 to sell their. I'm giggling.
Where do I sign up?
Yeah, where can I? Yeah,
hey, I'm an agent. We don't make that kind of money on this sale.
Exactly. It's coming out of your commission.
Coming out of my commission. It's great.
Pay as much as $35,000 to sell their homes instead of go through foreclosure. You're not going to want to miss this. We've got proof. Well, you're listening to the Real Estate Radio Network here on News Talk 580 KMJ.
This program is brought to you by the Real Estate Radio Network. Visit realestateradio.us for more info. That's realestateradio.us.
Thinking about buying a home? Find out how the HUD Home Store can help you. Visit HUDHomestore.com. Look at HUD homes available for sale near you or nationwide. Why HUD Home Store? HUD will pay up to 3% of the buyer's closing cost. The price of the home is based on an FHA as-is appraisal, which is already completed, saving you an average of $400. And there is an owner-occupant priority bidding period during the first 30 days. Want to know more? Visit HUDHomestore.com.
Mortgage interest rates are at historic lows, and there's never been a more affordable time to buy real estate. Whether you're looking for your first home, moving up, or your next income-producing property, let the mortgage professionals at Valley White help. Valley White Homes has been helping homeowners with their mortgage needs since 1997. When it comes to the Valley's real estate, we know our way around the neighborhood. Call toll-free 800-979-3958 and put the seasoned professionals at Valley White Homes to work for you. Valley White Homes, NMLS number 342062, 235-952, California Department of Real Estate License 0122-8460.
You're listening to Real Estate Radio Network with local expert Craig Barton. Now, here's Craig.
Well, in an effort to cut their losses, banks are beginning to pay some struggling homeowners as much as $35,000 to sell their homes before they end up in foreclosure. Now, the deals are aimed at incentivizing. Am I getting that?
That's
that
the
word?
right word. You did it.
Incentivizing.
Well done.
Homeowners who owe more on their home than what it is worth, kind of a prevailing theme of today's show, and who are serious delinquent on their payments to sell their homes in a short sale. Now, in short sales, homes are sold for less than what is owed, and the bank forgives the excess debt. Now, certain restrictions do apply.
Right.
Make sure you consult your tax advisor, and we hope to have
And maybe, Michelle, do explain what a short sale means. It's not very short in regards to time.
Oh, Timmer's talking about time.
Oh, no, short sales, right, are lengthy processes in many cases.
Now, let me
But
chime
effective.
in here. Let me chime in here.
Yes.
I would say this, okay? Short sales used to be not short.
They're shorter.
The last 4 or 5 that I've been involved with have all been less than. From the date of acceptance of the offer from the seller to presenting the short sale package to the servicer, have all been approved in less than 45 days.
Nice.
Much quicker.
One as short as, I think it was 7 or 8 days, and that was a Fannie Mae direct loan.
Nice.
So just to say this real quick, if there's agents out there that want to continue to discourage their buyers from looking at a short sale, because and this is a perfect example, because the common perception is that a short sale isn't short. So you don't want to look at this particular home because it's a short sale. Well, guess what? Go ahead and keep telling your buyers that, because that means there's more inventory for us to sell our buyers, because there's going to be less competition.
I don't hesitate showing a short sale. I don't.
But I'm going to tell you,
I
there
agree
are
with you.
folks out there. I say folks. There are agents out there, real estate professionals, that will discourage their buyers or discourage their buyers from even looking at a short sale, because they'll say exactly what you said. Short sales are not short.
That, it's getting faster, those
Right.
processes. I will tell you, though, people who are living in those homes under short sale circumstances, in my experience, are sometimes very, very unhappy and not supportive of their home situation.
That can be.
So it can be a difficult maneuver for an agent
I think
to show.
with, that's where I think it's extremely important that you work with a real estate professional that understands the circumstances, that understands where you're at, that is able to empathize, is able to talk you off the ledge, talk you through the process. Because I do think that there is a place in today's market for short sales. Let me add one other thing real quick. You also have someone that is, for all intents and purposes, a caretaker to the property. So we've had a number of REO listings where there's no caretaker. And let me tell you, how many times have we had, you get those quote-unquote problematic properties that you have to call someone out to. We had one property that had been broken into 3, 4, 5 times. And it's someone coming in. It's just
damaging.
Yeah,
they're vandalizing.
And not always vandalizing. Most of the time, they are vandalizing.
Most of the time, they're sleeping there.
They're sleeping there. They're going in and using drugs. They're going in and using the facilities.
No details, please.
Yeah, thanks.
You'd rather
I'll
be
keep
a
it
short
clean.
sale.
I'd rather, honestly, rather go through the process of short selling a property. And from what we're seeing here, and I've got a little.
So with the banks.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, the banks are starting to feel the same way as well. Now, this new approach by the banks has startled plenty of homeowners because they instantly get some type of offer in the mail, and they're going, hold on here. I just tried to go through the process of doing a loan modification with you. And now you're sending me something in the mail or calling me up and saying, I'm going to send you a check for $25,000 if you'll go through the process of short selling the home. Logic behind this is, again, it is not susceptible to vandalism if it is an REO. The servicer is not susceptible to, or the underlying investor isn't going to incur all the expenses that they would normally incur with a foreclosure. And ironically enough, and this is not for theatrical purposes, I received, this was a short sale approval from Chase, as a matter of fact. And I'm going to read this little blurb right here that I've highlighted. The seller may receive $23,000 as an incentive from this particular transaction.
Now, is this upon submission of the package?
And it shows here the borrower, which is the they have to get. Here's the deal: if it doesn't close, they don't get paid.
Right. Well,
do they have to continue to make their payments during that time period?
Good question.
Does it say?
Don't know. It
doesn't say.
Yeah,
because I'm thinking if well, two sides of the coin. One is if they do continue to make their payments, obviously they're not paying attorney fees to foreclose on it, so that's less money out of their pocket.
Sure.
If they don't make their payments and they give them that money, they're not going to receive the income anyways, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I see it as kind of a win-win for the...
Well, and I think in today's economic situations, maybe they have a homeowner who's not working with the bank in any way, but you throw some dollars in front of them and they may slow down because their life is just in such havoc. Those dollars are looking really appealing to get some communication.
And I'm sure there's got to be some restrictions as far as no vandalism of the property itself. I mean, I've heard horror stories.
That's a really good point. Is it a situation, does someone go out to the property and make sure that they take photos? They do an inspection.
Yeah.
They make them sign an agreement that says, hey, if we're going to approve this short sale and pay you $23,000, here's the there's always terms and conditions exactly of the actual short sale.
But what's the first thing you learn in finance? There's no such thing as a free lunch.
Correct.
Somebody's committing to something here.
And just to clarify, it says the seller may receive $23,000. Well, the seller is the original borrower on this particular note, and they identify the borrower as the seller. Mm-hmm. So this is, and I'm telling you right now, this is the first time I've seen this, where I've seen that someone is receiving a check, $23,000 on a purchase price or a sales price of $135. Now, from a percentage standpoint,
it's a nice chunk.
Wait, I have my calculator.
Yeah, that's like 18%, something like that, Timmer.
What is it? 130? What did you say? 135.
It's 23,000 on 135.
And I like how they use the word may.
17%.
17%. Well, there you go.
The seller may receive it. They may not, but they may.
Yeah, and Tim, you brought up a good point as well. How many times is it a situation? I read in an article recently this one particular borrower with Chase. Ironically enough, this letter I received her, this short sale approval was from Chase as well. Had been in her home, had unfortunately been hurt on the job, had is now considered disabled, but also had been in her home for 3 years. My neighbor across the street, and I believe he is a vet, number one. But he also is, they did a principal reduction for him. Nice. His situation was a little different. But my point is, and you said it best yourself. We are witnessing history. This is the first time I've ever seen a letter where they said they're going to pay the. Before, it was usually pulling teeth with the lien holders
to get a conversation,
to get a conversation struck up, and to really determine if anybody was even willing to approve a short sale. God forbid you had multiple liens on the property, because now it's a big tug of war, and the second saying, pound sand or walk west till your hat flows, because I'm really not going to forgive anything. You owe me $40,000, and I'm not taking anything less than that. Take it to foreclosure. Well, take it to foreclosure. It wipes out that second lien.
Right.
I just find it really interesting. So again, there's things that we are going to see, and that we're going to continue to see, that are going to be first. Mark
the only thing that will be constant is change.
Yeah, exactly. A year from now, what's it going to be next? You really have to ask that question. I never thought I would be seeing a homeowner paid $23,000 for a short sale. That's a huge 17%, Tim. That's a huge number.
Absolutely.
Well, my big question is, what ultimately does this do to stabilize the housing market? I think one positive thing is that if they're delinquent or not, whether they're in their home and making payments or not, granted, we have to get back to a baseline. We have to get back to some normalcy. So we have to get rid of all the, and I've said this before, and not in a negative way, we have to purge the market of all REOs that are a foregone conclusion, all short sales that just need to be done. Those folks that are upside down, you either need to forgive principal balance or some type of workout where it's the third, a third per year. Lock them in, write it down, and keep moving. Because until you get to some sort of normalcy where folks are below current market values, that means that there's still no normalcy as far as the market's concerned, and delinquencies are still too high for the market to handle, because if it doesn't normalize, prices aren't going to stabilize.
Right.
It's going to be simple economics.
Well, in essence, what's going on here, though, the continuous foreclosures, the continuous short sales, those continued conversations in the news and whatnot, it has devalued home ownership in America to the degree, where our young people don't even look to it as something.
How can they?
Positive.
Yeah.
Really, truly, it's devalued the process and the actual experience of.
It's another generation.
Mentality.
It's a different mentality. It's a new generation that is growing up under extremely different circumstances. Think back to those of our great grandparents or great grandparents that grew up during the Depression. How is their perspective? My grandmother, I tell you what, there was so much cagata that was shoved into her pantry, and you know the reason why?
That's where hoarding began.
That was the roots of hoarding, the Great Depression.
Yeah.
How much stuff did she have out in her doggone freezer? And trust me, she had a couple freezers, but she would freeze everything
because they lived it.
Yeah, they lived through it. So what is it going to do to force them? Hopefully, more than anything, it's going to create a greater sense of reality and responsibility in terms of how we raise our kids. Because bottom line is, when it comes right down to it, and we talked about this a few shows ago, back when we were talking about the inside job, you have to take a certain degree of responsibility that what we do, we are responsible for. And I must speak the same way as well. I got very, very aggressive as the market began to crescendo and as the market continued to ascend to the peak, and then figured out that there was a cliff up there at some point, and it was a nasty.
We're glad you're still with us.
Yeah, it was a nasty drop to the bottom.
I'm kind of a music fan, and every time I hear that song by Miranda Lambert, the one that Blake gave her.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Which one's that?
The one about her house.
Oh.
Home.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't it make you like, wow? Because really, I remember growing up in one home the majority of my life, not entirely. We moved around a bit, but I look back at that house as, fundamentally that stability in life.
Where she wanted to come back. She wanted to come back home to see that some folks were living there, and she wanted to come in. Can I come in and look around? Can I see where I played in that tree?
Yeah, exactly.
Buried my dog out.
And I think that's what this generation is suffering a bit from, not having necessarily that same level of stability that those of us who grew up with that type of environment. This house market is causing a lot of unsettling in that type of...
The housing market also as a result of many of our choices, which we all got all got caught up in.
Sure.
Excluding you, Tim, because you didn't. You're the responsible one of the bunch.
That's
here.
right.
The saver.
You're the saver. That's why
he's a safety boy.
That's why he said last week when we told him, we've got Tim here with a big bag of money, and he goes, I don't share that.
No, I hated to, sorry to go off on a sappy note. But
Well,
no, truly,
I'm telling you
Well,
this.
it actually builds family values out.
absolutely.
I think that's where you're
Yeah,
going
the
with
stability.
that.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, we can all use a little stability. Well, I'm telling you this. $23,000 on a $135,000 purchase. I'm telling you this. Chase does not do that unless it's a win-win
No,
for
absolutely.
them,
Saving
or
us something somewhere.
unless the federal government forces them
To
to do something like that. We will see.
Unless they call Tim for his bag of money.
Yeah, exactly. Is it too much money dangled in front of the consumer? Who knows?
I don't know.
If you have any real estate or real estate financing related questions, or just questions regarding the information that we're sharing with you on today's show, we'd love to hear from you. Please call us anytime, 800-979-3958. Or you can also check out our resources online at reofresnohomes.com. Or, Michelle, you can just use press 4 keyword
KMJ, call Craig.
to call into the show. Well, after the break, we're going to talk about one of the most popular home loans that many buyers here in the Valley are taking advantage of to purchase their dream home. Stay tuned to find out exactly what type of home loan that is. You are listening to the Real Estate Radio Network here on News Talk 580 KMJ.
This program is brought to you by the Real Estate Radio Network. Visit realestateradio.us for more info. That's realestateradio.us.
Thinking about buying a home? Find out how the HUD Home Store can help you. Visit HUDHomestore.com. Look at HUD homes available for sale near you or nationwide. Why HUD Home Store? HUD will pay up to 3% of the buyer's closing cost. The price of the home is based on an FHA as-is appraisal, which is already completed, saving you an average of $400. And there is an owner-occupant priority bidding period during the first 30 days. Want to know more? Visit HUDHomestore.com.
All it takes is one call to the professionals at Valleywide Homes, and you'll start building wealth in real estate. Whether you're looking for your first home, moving up, or your next income-producing investment property, let the experts at Valleywide Homes help. There's never been a better time to get into the real estate market. Visit our website at reofresnohomes.com or call toll-free 800-979-3958. That's 800-979-3958. And put the seasoned professionals of Valleywide Homes to work for you.
You're listening to Real Estate Radio Network with local expert Craig Barton. Now, here's Craig.
Well, as we talked about earlier, we've got Tim O'Hare. Tim is a mortgage advisor with Valleywide Homes here in Fresno. One of the hardest working men in show business, I must say, Tim. You've been doing this since you were 9 years old. I think I read in your bio earlier.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Awesome. It's great having you with us here. I'm so full of it, huh?
Yeah.
I must be in sales or something like that.
Feels like it sometimes.
Feels like. Remember, your desk is close to mine, Tim.
I know.
I know where you work. Well, today Tim's here to share with us all of his knowledge about FHA loans, and I wanted to give you a little bit of a history as far as FHA loans were concerned. The National Housing Act of 1934 created the Federal Housing Administration, or FHA, which was established primarily to increase home construction, reduce unemployment, and it sounds kind of familiar to
Today's
reminiscent
world,
of about
yeah.
4 years ago,
Today's issues?
and operate various loan insurance programs. The FHA does not make loans, nor does it plan or build houses. As in the Veterans Administration, which is a VA loan, the applicant for the loan must make arrangements with a lending institution. Now, this financial organization then may ask if the borrower wants FHA insurance on the loan, or may insist that the borrower apply for it. Now, the federal government, through the Federal Housing Administration, investigates the applicant, and having decided that the risk is favorable, insures the lending institution against loss of principal in the case the borrower fails to meet the terms and conditions of the mortgage. Now, the borrower who pays an insurance premium of roughly 1% up front in today's market on declining principal balances for the lender's protection receives two benefits: a careful appraisal by an FHA inspector, very careful, I might add, and a lower interest rate on the mortgage than the lender might have offered without that particular type of protection. Now, until the latter half of the 1960s, the Federal Housing Administration served mainly as an insuring agency for loans made by private investors. However, in recent years, this role has been expanded as the agency became the administrator of an interest rate subsidy and rent supplement programs. Important subsidy programs such as the Civil Rights Act of 1968 were established by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Now, an FHA insured loan is a Federal Housing Administration mortgage insurance-backed mortgage loan, which is provided by an FHA-approved lender. That's where Tim comes in. Now, FHA-insured loans are a type of federal assistance which have historically allowed lower-income Americans to borrow money for the purchase of a home that they would not have otherwise been able to afford. Michelle, you made mention of it a couple shows ago. You didn't have to come in with 20% down because anything in excess of 20% down required what? Mortgage insurance to protect the lender. Well, to obtain mortgage insurance from the Federal Housing Administration, a mortgage insurance premium equal to a percentage of the loan is required at closing and is normally financed by the lender and paid to FHA, which goes into their general insurance pool on the borrower's behalf. Depending upon the loan-to-value, the upfront premium as well as the monthly premium that's charged does change. Below 95%, it is still the same, but nonetheless, it does change. The program originated during the Great Depression of the 1930s when rates of foreclosures, and Michelle, you brought this up before, and defaults rose sharply. And the program was intended to provide lenders with sufficient insurance because it was intended to stimulate lending because nobody
lent.
And can I just say, again, history is in the making. The bill we just discussed, we're in our own what do they call it? A recession right now. They won't. The Great Recession, not the Great Depression. But the same exact things are going on.
Sure.
We're evaluating what can be done to correct this market, which is what they did back in the 30s when they created FHA.
Well, and keep in mind, this stuck for how many years?
Yeah, almost 100
For 80 years since it was created. So why FHA loans, Timmer? And this was a statistic that I pulled from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's annual release. And this was dated back November 16th of 2010 in their report to Congress. And among other things, the report stated that FHA loans accounted nationally for nearly 40% of all purchase mortgages for the period of November 9th, 2009 to November of 2010. And that was HUD press release, HUD number 10-252. Now, they were estimating at this particular time that this release came out that by next year, FHA loans could easily account for more than 50% of all purchase money mortgages, and consumer outreach is already pointing towards this kind of usage spike. Time will tell, and I think what we're seeing, and Tim,
I can account
you
for. I would say, out of my loan closings, 100% of the purchases have been FHA transactions. So, it's on the uprise, in my opinion. But
and conventional is the other option that most people have if they have the funds.
Or cash.
So conventional versus FHA. Tell us more.
What's the huge difference? Couple of things. One is credit criteria.
Okay.
On an FHA loan, your credit can actually, it's interesting because they have a 0 credit score, which means
Requirement?
Well, not a requirement, but let's say you have absolutely no credit. You're 20 years old, and you've just
That's
never.
me.
Yeah.
That is exactly me. Greg.
You are
20 years old.
You've just never run out and sought out credit.
Always the funny one in the room.
If you have a 0
can't
credit
all
score,
be 20, Greg.
I'm 20 times 3 right now.
If you have a 0 credit score, you can actually still purchase a home using non-traditional
Okay,
credit.
let's say that again. If you have a 0 or if you have no
credit score.
No credit score. Let's make that
Okay.
clear. Because I have clients working towards 0. And I'm trying to tell them, please don't.
So the difference between an FHA and a conventional loan is, typically speaking, a conventional loan has to have a minimum score of at least 620. So
In conventional, you have to have Tim's bag of cash.
no,
to get
you
in the
don't.
home.
No, you can get as low as a 5%, or and depending on credit scores, as low as a 3% down payment.
Just wanted to clarify.
That's okay.
All right, thank you.
But on an FHA loan, I will say that the rates are better
There you go.
with a less down payment.
And that is because of the insurance.
Now, the brings up a good point. Conventional loans, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac backed loans, are privately insured. So there's private mortgage insurance companies versus, so you've got the private market involved. Some of the mortgage insurance companies, Radian, MGIC, those are that actually provide the GE provide the mortgage insurance. Whereas with FHA loans, it is the federal government.
Right. And the beauty of that is that you are going to have a price difference between FHA mortgage insurance premium versus those companies that you just mentioned. Those companies will charge you based on your credit score.
I see.
Lower the score, the higher the premium.
I see. And FHA is a standardized.
And the higher the rate.
Higher the rate, exactly. Correct. And also, the more down payment or the less down payment that you put on a conventional loan will determine your pricing. So the less down payment, the higher price again. So sometimes,
variables.
Even though people think, oh, I can get a conventional loan, in reality, your price better out going FHA.
Gotcha.
Less down payment, mortgage insurance is going to be a little bit cheaper for you. You're going to be in a good loan.
And the difference is private investor versus,
as far as the mortgage insurance is concerned,
government
versus
insurance.
a government-backed program,
Okay.
certainly. And what you had also said that from a pricing standpoint, once you got above a certain score, as far as FHA was concerned,
right,
the pricing's all the same. So it doesn't matter whether you have a 645 credit score or whether you or 640 credit score or you have an 840 credit score.
Right.
I don't even know if that's possible. 840 credit score. That it's all the same.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
But with conventional financing, the converse is true. The lower the score, like you had said, the higher the loan to value, meaning the lower down payment you put down, the more expensive it is.
The more risk.
And that's a distinct advantage. We had you in the studio last week talking about down payment assistance programs, and I'm not trying to jump ahead, but the down payment with an FHA loan is how much again?
3.5% of the purchase price.
The total purchase price. So on a purchase price of $100,000, we've got $3,500. Now, with last week's show, we had talked about down payment assistance programs. You had mentioned that there were just thousands of programs out there nationally.
Sure.
County-specific, city-specific, whatever the municipality was we spoke of, what you spoke of was CHDAP,
right,
which allowed CHDAP to come in with 3% of that 3.5%.
Right.
So you could come in with literally 1% or $1,000, whichever was greater.
Correct.
And we made, I think you might have even made this comment. This is, it seems rather similar to 2006 when you could do an 80-20 and get a seller concession, and you really didn't have to have a whole lot of skin in the game. This particular loan is being used so much, well, you had said 100% of the time with your clients, across the board with if it's being utilized with down payment assistance, and you qualify for down payment assistance, so you have to be below a certain threshold as far as your income is concerned because you must demonstrate need.
Right.
Why wouldn't someone want to get into an FHA loan? I mean, what's going to stop them, Tim?
There's not a lot of stops. I personally think that it's the best way to go right now as far as purchasing a home. It's interesting because I think people get caught up in the fact that they have this great credit score and they think that FHA is for first-time home buyers. Not true. Not true at all. First-time home buyer is someone that has not owned a home within the last 3 years. You can have a conventional loan and also have an FHA loan out at the same time.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people may or may not know that. So, you're in a situation where you want to get into another house right now, and maybe you do have equity. Maybe you're one of the lucky ones. You can actually keep that house open on the conventional side and still get the FHA loan with the benefit of the lower interest rates, the lower premium for the mortgage insurance premium.
So, Timmer, talk real quick. We talked about, so what is the minimum credit score? You talked about a zero score, being able to develop traditional credit.
It's zero is available.
Much harder to qualify for, though.
Much harder to qualify. You're gonna have to have the non-traditional credit. You're gonna have to show that you paid your PG&E bill. You showed that you paid rent to whoever your landlord is. You have to have 3 open trade lines that way. If you go in strictly by score, there's investors that will go as low as a 580. Wow. Typically, though, is about a 620 score.
Now, I know there's a lot of properties out there we've talked about, the HUD properties. We've talked about properties that have been foreclosed on and short-sailed and properties that have deficiencies. I know that that was one of my frustrations in some cases with the short sales is that you don't know what you're walking into, and then you also have the depressed person that you're dealing with who's showing the house. But on those types of properties, does FHA can they insure those?
Yes, they can. One of the biggest issues, or not issues, but one of the biggest things that FHA wants for their potential buyers or borrowers is that the home needs to be in a safe environment to live in. So health and safety reasons are huge for them. There is, as you know, the lead poisoning disclosure of 1978, which is lead paint. I'm sorry,
not just poison. We don't just poison them; we poison them with paint.
We don't go straight to poison.
So there are homes that are in need of repair. Maybe the paint is peeling, and that is an issue. That's a health and safety issue. Or there's broken windows, or there's leaky faucets, or whatever the case may be. There's a program out there that's called a 203K FHA loan, and what that loan allows the borrower to do is, let's say that they figure out that they're going to need about $10,000 in order to get the property up to date as far as being a good health and safety issue. You can add that on to the purchase price. Okay. That amount is going to be paid directly to the contractors, and it normally has to be completed within 60 days after the close of escrow. So there are programs available to fix up a house that may not be in great shape. So it's another way for someone to not only fix up the neighborhood, but if they don't have the money for a rehab, funds are available to that type of a client too.
That's awesome.
One of the things that I wanted to touch real quickly was so many clients over the last 5 or 6 years or potential buyers have experienced either a bankruptcy or foreclosure. Real quickly, Tim, because we're running out of time. Unfortunately, there's so many aspects of FHA financing that we haven't had the opportunity to cover. But bankruptcy, if you've filed a bankruptcy, how long do you have to be discharged from the bankruptcy?
2 years from the discharge.
Okay, and some reestablished credit, I'm going to assume.
Correct.
And then as far as foreclosure is concerned, it's going to be 3 years.
Yep.
So, if it's
with an asterisk.
With an asterisk, okay. Well, it's so important for folks to know where they're at. Knowing where they're at is the first call, and that's talking to Tim in order to determine exactly where you're at. If this sounds a little like you and you'd like to know where you're at, all you need to do, if you have real estate financing related questions to the information that we've shared with you on the show today, or you'd like to talk to Timmer, give us a call, 800-979-3958, or check out our resources online at reofresnohomes.com, or just use press 4 keyword
KMJ, call Craig.
Exactly, to get in contact with us, and we'll put you in contact with Timmer. Tim, thanks again. Sorry we ran out of time today. Would you come back?
Absolutely. I love being here.
Awesome. Tim O'Hare, mortgage advisor with Valleywide Homes. Big thank you to Michelle Pettis-Cavalli for being in the studio. Would you come back as well, please?
I have to see if my hair appointment will conflict, but yeah, I'm pretty sure I can.
And a big special thank you to Johnny B behind the board. Always makes us sound great. Johnny, you are the best. Don't forget to tune in to the Real Estate Radio Network next Saturday at 4 a.m. on News Talk 580 KMJ. Make it a great day, Central Valley. I'm getting tongue-tied. Great day, Central Valley. And the preceding program was paid for by the Real Estate Radio Network.